Good morning. Welcome back to the farm. I'm here in front of the pond on this very chilly November morning. It's quite frosty, and we've just come out of a heavy rainstorm where it was on the border of freezing rain, and tomorrow we're getting snow. So I thought this was a good window of opportunity to try to give you an update on where I am with the pond. I've spent the last few weeks trying to get the farm ready for winter, and I'm almost there with all the cleanup and garden prep projects. And we've got the chickens winter housing all set to go. So we're looking to move the chickens into their winter housing probably this weekend. We'll see. Although we're due for snow tomorrow, so the chickens are going to have to deal with some snow. But anyway, I've been picking at this in fits and starts for the last few weeks. I'm happy with where I am with it in terms of, leaving it for the winter, but I will continue to pick at it as long as the weather allows me to, so that I can get that much further with it before spring comes and I do the bulk of the planting next spring. So let me show you where I am, what I've done, and what I hope to do before spring next year and I can start planting in earnest. I'm going to start here on the outside of the pond in the overflow area. This is where the pond, if it fills up too much and we need to get rid of water, it will overflow into this channel that will drain into a culvert right there that goes underneath the road into our pasture, the little driveway into our pasture, and empties out right there into the orchard. So originally when our friend Evan dug this all out, he lined this channel with these nice flat rocks, and it looked great. But after much thinking about this, I decided that I'm going to probably move a lot of these flat rocks out, use them elsewhere, maybe on the sides, and then fill the bottom of this with some river rock that looks more like the bottom of a stream bed. A lot of these flat rocks will come in handy for a few other features that I'll show you in a minute, but they will also a lot of them will probably end up on the sides here. I decided to line the sides of this channel with landscape fabric and then cover them with rocks. I had originally thought I might do some plantings closer to it, but upon further reflection, I just decided for now I'm going to cover it with rocks and see how the rest of the garden sort of plays out. And I may end up cutting this liner a little lower and putting plantings along the edge of the ditch. But we'll see. For now, I just want to keep the weeds down in this area. And I know weeds are going to be a huge problem in this freshly dug area. So I just want to keep ahead of the weeds. So laid some landscape fabric down, and this will eventually all be covered and look like a stream bed. If you remember previous videos or maybe previous photos that I've posted, this bridge here made out of this one big slab of rock, we've now got a bit of a bigger gap underneath it. My husband and I actually pried this up with a big pry bar and leveled it a little bit on the right-hand side. The right-hand side dipped down quite a bit more than it does now. And so we tried to level it a little bit more, mainly so that when you come off of the bridge here, you're able to step down onto another rock. So that was one big change we made, and there'll be a lot of rock work to be done in this area as the spring comes and I dig the path that will eventually come off this trail. But that was one other big change we made, was prying this rock up, which it's hard to, I guess, really appreciate the size of this thing, but it's probably as tall as I am. And I'm 5'7", so this thing is massive, and there's no way that we're gonna move this without the excavator that my friend Evan had. All we could do was just sort of pry it up and jam some more rocks under it. But I'm very happy with where it is now, and so I think we'll just leave it there. The next big thing that you'll probably notice is different is that the pond is actually full. It took about 4 or 5 days to fill this using an old well line, and I'll follow the hose back up to where it comes out at the base of that stone pillar right there. There's an old well line that used to come to the house that got broken when we dug for a new septic system, and it's not being used by the house, hasn't been for decades. There's actually a drilled well that feeds the house, but this old well line comes from the far end of the property, and water still flows through it, so we capped it. And for this project we put a little valve on it and ran a hose and dumped it into the pond, and that's the water that we used to fill this pond. It took about 4 or 5 days to get it completely full, because this time of year the water flowing from that well isn't a huge amount of volume, and especially we were in a drought, had been in a drought for quite some time, so water flow was pretty meager, but we got it done. The pond is now full, and I just recently installed the aerator that you see bubbling there that will hopefully help improve the biological conditions in the pond, oxygenate the water, and keep treatments moving around. And then you'll notice this little waterfall. I'll explain that in a minute, but I just wanted to comment about the condition of the water. We had, when I filled this up, we then had a month of warm, sunny weather. We got literally no rain for like a month and a half. Very, very little rain. A few showers, but nothing significant. It was mostly just sunny. And so I had a bit of an algal bloom in here. And so I just recently treated it for algae and also treated it with a clarifier. So hopefully that'll help clean up some of the stuff. And I'll treat it again one more time, and then in the spring we'll probably have to do a few more treatments to get the water a little clearer. And then in spring I will add plants, a lot of plants, to the shelving along the edges, as well as floating plants, and I hope to get a lily in here too, and that will help significantly to clean up the water, use up the nutrients in the water. So let's take a look at this waterfall. I'm going to pan over here. This right now is just the the distribution box for the waterfall sitting on top of a rock. This is definitely not where it's going to be, and I'll show you in just a second. Originally, I'd planned to put the waterfall feature underneath this bridge, which leads from or to this little marshy area and a channel that in spring is likely going to be filled with water. It's actually got some water in it right now from recent rains. Anyway, the hope was that the spring water that comes out of this wall area is going to drain down here into the pond, and I thought, well, that would be a nice place for a water feature. Unfortunately, it's just not high enough. Oh, and there's Susie. Hi, Suze. Susie is terrified of the pond. It's hilarious. She's definitely not a water dog. Oh, and there she is up on the Lion King rock. Go, Susie. Oh, my sweet dog. Okay, back to the waterfall. Anyway, this is not high enough to fit the waterfall feature in and have enough of a fall, so I had to kind of regroup. And so what I thought I would do is actually as I slip in the pond, put this waterfall feature on a flat rock, not the rock it's sitting on, but I will replace this rock, put it on another flat rock, and then cover it with a structure of rocks to hide it, so that it flows down and hits these rocks here and creates a nice, a big enough drop and a nice sound. By putting the waterfall in this position, it actually frees up the bridge area, and there's Susie again, getting freaked out by the water, frees up this little bridge area to be more of a beach for wildlife to walk in, and allows a bit of a better height difference for the waterfall kind of to cascade down onto the rocks below. So this is definitely not the finished product by any means, and I'm hopeful to get this done before winter sets in. But for now, this is where it is, just so that we can have some more circulation in the pond as I treat it. And I'll also have to work to get this hose flatter onto the bottom of the pond and hide it with some rocks so you don't see it. But I'm pretty excited about having both of these things going right now. And the wildlife is already appreciating the pond. I found a frog in here the other day. I was scraping leaves out of the bottom and pulled up a frog. So frogs have already found the pond. And a series of invertebrate animals, I don't know what they are, but little swimmers that are in the water appeared within like days of filling this pond. So already wildlife is starting to enjoy it. On the far side of the pond, you'll notice this bright green bucket that's overturned with a brick on it. That is just a temporary cover for the motor that runs the aerator that's bubbling up over there. It needs to be covered, and so I'll be purchasing a fake rock, like a hollow fake rock, designed to cover these things, and put that somewhere along this edge here so that it blends in and we still have access to it. There's Susie again. Next spring, we're actually going to be running electricity from the house across the top of this wall. We're going to bury it and bring it out to the greenhouse so that I can have a plug in the greenhouse for the heater that I use in spring. And then we're going to run electricity, split it off from the greenhouse and run it down here, bury it, and install a post like right behind Susie in that little curve there. Oh, she is really terrified of this water. Anyway, we're going to put a little post there so that we can plug in both the aerator motor and the pump that runs this waterfall. You can actually see the cord coming out of the rocks just to the left of the green bucket. That is for the pump that runs the waterfall that's buried down in here somewhere. So both of those will plug into a little post behind this Lion King rock, and I'll disguise it, with another pile of rocks there in the spring. That's not going to happen before winter. Turning away from the pond, I'll show you the one thing that I planted so far in this garden. My Japanese umbrella pine. If you remember, it was sitting in a pot up above near the greenhouse, and I definitely did not want to overwinter it in the pot. So I built up this little corner of the garden with some of the topsoil that we had brought in and compost and a bit of mulch, and planted it here, and hopefully it will be happy here all winter in this nice warm, somewhat sheltered spot next to the granite foundation of the old barn. I didn't plant it in the corner of the foundation. This will get eventually maybe 20 feet tall or so. It'll take a while, it's slow growing, but I didn't want it to eventually potentially cast shade on the greenhouse. So I pulled it a little bit away from the corner, and there'll be lots of other plantings, around it and in the corner, but I think this is a good spot for it. It's somewhat close to the wall, maybe 3-4 feet away from the wall, which will give it room to expand, but I don't plan on planting anything behind it. I want it to have room to grow into its full potential shape. So this is it for planting this year. I will maybe get some more soil in here. As you can see, we scraped the soil down, right down, and still didn't manage to get rid of all the weed seeds. so I've got a little bit of weeding to do here, but I have quite a bit of soil to bring in to build this up, probably another 6 to 8 inches all over this whole thing. As you can see, it's pretty bare. Yeah, a lot of work, but that's what spring will be for. Hopefully, I might be able to get a few bucket loads more in here before we put the tractor away for winter. But for now, I think that's going to be it. I'm back on the front side of the pond by the bridge and the drainage channel. One other thing I want to try to get done before winter sets in, and we'll see how the farm projects go. But right here next to the driveway into the pasture, we have the culvert, and Evan did a great job building the stones around the culvert. But what I want to do is chop out this top bit here and build up a little bit of a stone wall to kind of frame the edge of that along the driveway into the pasture, and maybe curve the wall around here a little bit as a decorative feature, but also as kind of a physical and visual barrier from this pathway, just so people are aware that that drops off suddenly and they don't fall in. Hoping to get that mostly done before it becomes too cold to work outside and the ground freezes hard. But we'll see. We'll see how that works. Well, that's the update from the pond. I hope you found it interesting. I'm still very excited about this project and cannot wait for spring when I can finally really start to plant and dig paths and make this thing come to life in real life rather than just in my head. So I hope you will come along and see how this thing develops. I think it's going to be pretty awesome. Yeah. So thanks for joining me, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.